Welcome to the 14th episode of Filling the Void. My name is Abby Ebenezer, and I will be your guest, and am also a part of the Seattle Film Festival, or the Seattle Film Summit team. I'm really excited to be hosting this live stream with our guests from the local Seattle Black Film Festival. Now, what is Filling the Void? The team at the Seattle Film Summit wanted to provide a platform for creatives during the pandemic. From there, 2020 has evolved into its own beast. But nonetheless, creatives still need to have creativity, and we're here in an attempt to provide that. So please help Filling the Void continue to move forward. You can do this in so many different ways. You can sponsor. Let's thank today's sponsor, For Culture. Simple ways to help, like the video, hit subscribe, share the video, and if you have programming ideas, hit us up at fillingthevoidsubmissions@gmail.com. I want to give a quick shout out to our Filling the Void team, our producer and voice of God, Todd Connolly, Marissa Fujimoto, and Lynn Bohard. Now, before I bring in our guests, let's take a peek at the 2020 Black Film Festival trailers.
Knowing how to act right, love. Like liquor in your system when you at nightclubs. I get up in your system, make you act right, love. Like easily ignition, turn me on. Might bubble to the break of dawn. I'm toasting champagne glasses till the cake is gone. We making moves like a rocket ship or a crescendo or a rhythm. Now guess who's coming to dinner?
The 2020 Seattle Black Film Festival starts on Friday and ends on Sunday. And now I would love to introduce our guests, Jazmyn Scott, Andrea Stuart-Lehalle, and Zola Mumford. I'm really excited to be involved as an official selection in the 2020 Black Film Festival. My show, Wretch, is playing on Friday, and I can't wait for you all to get a chance to see it. Thank you for our guests here, Jazmyn, Zola, and Andrea. It's so nice to meet all of you, kind of face to face, right?
That we can do these days.
Yeah, I know we've been talking through email a lot, and I actually got a chance to see a lot of the productions that are done at the Langston Hughes. So I'm really excited that you guys are that there's an actual film festival that I feel like I can actually contribute in now. We definitely love to hear about how the film festival got here today.
Yes. Well, it began back in 2003. I was asked by so I should give a little background. The Langston Hughes building began life in 1913 as Cheva, and forgive my Hebrew pronunciation, Cheva Biker Holim Akizadeh Hara, which was a Sephardic Jewish congregation. And the building was designed coincidentally, considering some of future programming, by the Scottish Jewish architect Marcus Pratica. And a lot of his work across the United States included movie houses, or to put it more accurately, he went on to design some of the movie palaces that were really big in the 20s with, the great soaring domes. If you're in Seattle and you are familiar with the Banana Republic store downtown, well, that used to be the theater called the Coliseum. And I do remember seeing Purple Rain there back in the olden days. Um, he had a lot of beautiful buildings all around. And the congregation was there for decades until, as neighborhoods were changing, in the late 60s, they sold it to the city of Seattle under Lyndon B. Johnson's Model Cities program. And there were some ideas behind what the Model Cities program wanted to do. I've done some research on this as well, and I'll share a link to the whole timeline history link piece that I wrote about the history of Langston there. It was not just a community center under the new program, but the people in the African American community expressed a wish for the programming there to not only reflect um, just life, social services, social life, a place where people could rent it out. There were karate lessons. There was Japanese flower arranging from one of the Japanese Americans in the neighborhood. There were after school programs. I went to some of them, feeding programs. There was even a short-lived bus where teenagers could pay, I think, like 15 cents or 25 cents and then get home safely if they went to an evening event. They wanted to have something in the community that had a mind towards um, business and skill development. Anyway, long story short, the film festival itself, Jackie Moscow, a theater director, was coming up with some programming ideas late 2003. I grew up in Seattle. I had been away for a while, was back doing work in 16 millimeter, making short film. Jackie asked me if I'd be interested in acting as the curator for the forthcoming film festival. Our first film festival was in February. However, as we quickly learned, that's when everyone else does their Black History Month stuff. So we ended up moving it to April. And over the years, we've always had a call for work. We've always shown international film. We've always tried to have really diverse content, and that includes genre film, documentaries, experimental film, dance film, animation when we can, feature films when we can. We've had a wonderful range of guests, Charles Burnett, Danny Glover, Robert Townsend. I know I'm leaving a lot of people out. Tiana McCloudon, Zainabu Irene Davis, Black woman filmmaker who was my film professor. And the call for work has brought so many different filmmakers from not just Seattle, but from Brazil, Ireland, the UK, Canada. And one of the great aspects of the film festival is when we are face to face and people are meeting each other, they're talking. We've got 3 great audience members, 3 Black women who take their week-long vacation when we were still doing 9 days instead of just a long 3-day weekend. And they would actually come to every single film. And we've honored them in various ways. But that's the kind of wonderful community support we've had.
Okay, so that actually goes into my next question. I know that the Langston Hughes has had this film festival for years, but it's gone through different names. What inspired the brand change to the Black Film Festival?
I can hop on that. I'm not sure if you're having a video problem to see me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see you, Andrea.
Weird. All right. I'm not sure what that's about, but I'll. If that's not any better, that's super weird. I'll talk to it from my dark hole, wherever that is. But essentially, as Zola just mentioned, since the beginning of the festival, we've always had a lot of festival entries and official selection films that are really from around the world. And over the years, the festival was prior named the Langston Hughes African American Film Festival, which spoke a lot to the facility where the festival took place and that community. But as our community has grown and evolved as well, we really came to the realization that not only is the community that we serve not necessarily identifying with African American as a label. The films that we're showing in the festival are really representative of the African and Black diaspora. So, in changing the name to be more representative of who is involved in the festival, who's seeing the festival, and who's submitting works to the festival and being featured in the festival, and also as an effort to put ourselves a bit more clearly on the map as a really important stop on the landscape of Black cultural arts in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest, so people know we're here and doing the good work.
That's amazing. I know for myself, as a woman of color in the Seattle area, we've always had challenges, you know, when it comes to, first of all, getting on a film set. Second of all, making a name for ourselves when it comes to production. And, you know, I'm so excited to see that there have been more culturally diverse film festivals that are out there, especially film festivals that I feel that represent me. And that's why I'm so happy about Langston, especially because you guys accepted our film, one of the films that I'm involved in called Wretch, into the film festival. So I would love to know a little bit more about what brought you to be a part of the Seattle Black Film Festival.
I'll hop on that maybe first and then pass it and put some work into trying to fix my video.
Yeah.
Essentially, I feel super fortunate to have been connected with the festival. It had been running, you know, over 13 years by the time I finally caught up. I'm a recent Seattle, relatively recent, it's getting longer, Seattle implant. I've been here about 6 years now. And I have a dear but distant cousin who was very embedded in the arts community here. And he said, "Oh, you're moving to Seattle. That's great. When you get here, I'll hook you up with all the right people." And I was like, "Awesome. I'll have somebody there when we get there." Of course, he moved away after living here for a very long time in the year before we ended up getting here with my family. But he followed through on his word, and Jackie Moscow was one of the first people that he connected me with. And just my first experience with the festival, I was just blown away by the people working with Zola and Karen Toring, who was one of the people who worked for years to build the festival and is now with Sankofa Film Society. They were incredible people to work with and really showed me or introduced me to cultural and arts Seattle, and fell in love with the festival, really the first festival, as all of the directors, visiting directors came, and the community members, and the conversations that were happening, and just the quality of work. I said, this is where I need to be, and I need to do whatever I can to lift up this cultural arts event and keep it going.
Yeah, Zola, I believe that you are muted. And actually, I wanted to ask all three of you instead of just the two, like what brought you all to be a part of the Seattle Black Film Festival?
I spoke to a little bit of it before. I also want to praise the wonderful Karen Toring. And yes, she's really held down the Sankofa Film Society. Twice we had Ava DuVernay as a guest in past years. That was Karen who got her here, and Array, her film distribution organization. Karen has really supported screenings of that in Columbia City and elsewhere, making that be a consistent thing. She is also the founder of the Gary International Black Film Festival. That's Gary, Indiana, home of the Jacksons. And we have had so many wonderful people from the community involved. Everyone from a high school volunteer to the loyal audience member, people who have been involved in arts administration in Seattle have been really supportive. I know Jazmyn can speak much more in detail about people getting involved with Langston and why the need for Langston as an organization arose.
Sorry, I had to unmute. And I apologize if there's a bunch of background noise. I live on a really busy street, so there's constant noise back there. But my involvement, I'm the program manager for Langston, the nonprofit that's housed at the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute. But even prior to me working for Langston, the nonprofit, and we inherited the film festival when a transition happened. I've always been involved for basically my whole life. So nearly, well, I won't say how many years. My age isn't an issue, but I've been involved with Langston Hughes for a really long time. So I have participated in the film festivals over the past 17-year history. Prior to me being in this position, I would come on to take on the role as a house manager or different things like that when it was being run by the Institute and it was under Jackie Mosku's leadership. So I have been involved for a really long time just because I have a really, really long history with Langston Hughes itself. And then if you like, Abby, I can go into a little bit of context about Langston, the organization, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Please. I would like to know more too.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, Zola gave us some really great context earlier, but just to kind of give everybody a little bit of rundown, because I know it can be a little bit confusing for folks. But Langston, the organization, was really created as a response to the community and the city's desire to support the mission, the historic mission of the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute. And the building, which Zola said is a former synagogue, was acquired by the city of Seattle over 40 years ago. And over those past 40 years, really provided a really wide range of community and cultural programs in that space. And then several years ago, when the city's Office of Arts and Culture took over as operations for the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute, they went through like a 3-year review and engagement process. And that ultimately led to Langston being conceived. And Langston was really designed by community members to serve as a hub for Black arts and culture. So that is one of our taglines. We do call ourselves the hub for Black arts and culture in Seattle. And we officially began our work in late 2016. And again, like I said, we are housed and based out of the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute. And we guide a bunch of programs and community partnerships that really center Black arts, Black artists, and Black audiences that honor the ongoing legacy of Seattle's historically Black Central District. And community partnerships is what is at the center of our programming. So we have partnerships with all kinds of different organizations within the city and King County, as well as individual artists. So for instance, we have partnerships with like the Seattle Theater Group, Seattle Public Library, a smaller organization like Sierra Sisters, Wanawari, and the Northwest African American Museum, and just so many different, organizations and whatnot throughout the city that really want to partner with us to provide important cultural programming that really has a specific target of Black arts and Black audiences. And then, so addition to this annual film festival, like I said, we inherited it, and so we took it over in 2016. Some of our additional programs, we do things like a festival we call We Out Here, and that happens during the week of Juneteenth. So that just ended not that long ago. And it's just a few days, but it's really a celebration of our brilliance in all forms. And so it typically features things like panels and presentations and workshops and resources for the community, as well as entertainment. So we switched gears this year and did it all virtual. And it actually was really successful and still really well attended. We also do things like dance classes and workshops. We talked earlier about our partnership with SIF and doing the youth filmmaking workshops. We've been doing that for the past 3 years and offering those opportunities to young people in our community. It has a specific focus of serving Black youth in the community. And then we have another film series called Fade to Black, and it explores the Black image in genre films. And so we started that a few months back, and we're currently exploring the horror genre. So we've screened films like the documentary. We started with the documentary Horror Noir. We've done Tales from the Hood, Blackula, Night of the Living Dead. And then recently, because we wanted to keep that going and we had to figure out how to continue that virtually, we did a live virtual watch party for Candyman, and we did a live Q&A with Tony Todd, the star of that. And
yes, I was a part of that.
Yeah, that was awesome, right?
Love Tony Todd.
He's such a great guy. And then next week we'll be doing another watch party where we screening The Craft, and we'll actually have Rachel True live Q&A with her.
Oh,
so we figured it out. We figured out how to keep the momentum going with that program and doing those virtually. So we're doing that with as many programs as we can, so that we can keep up our engagement with the community and offer things virtually until we can come back together in the real world again.
And that kind of goes along with what you're doing with the film festival, right? I mean, this year, obviously, because we have a international pandemic going on, you've gone to the virtual format of having the film festival. So, I mean, how does that work exactly? Like, how are you streaming the movies? How are you, keeping it so that filmmakers still have the ability to, stay in the know, stay connected, and talk, because we're all been stuck at home, not really getting a chance to have any kind of human interaction. So how do you keep that entity alive when everything's going virtual?
Yeah, I'll definitely let Andrea speak to that. But I will say that it was really important as we, when March hit and things got, started getting shut down, it was really important for us that we didn't cancel the film festival. So we certainly went through a lot of processes of figuring out like, okay, well, scenario A, we'll do this. Okay, B, we got to Z, and we finally figured out, we got to this point. But I'll let Andrea speak to how we're streaming.
Yeah, it went down pretty much as Jazmyn said. We had a lot of plan B, C's, D's, and E's, and hybrids of an EF plan that could have an A component. And we were really fortunate early on to observe what Couchathon, online streaming music and film festival, was doing with Northwest Film Forum. And it looked like it was super successful and checked a couple important but small boxes in terms of not making films available on VOD, which is really it's not possible for a lot of filmmakers that are working with distribution deals and things like that. A festival in its normal form in person is really kind of a unique combination of things that works for filmmakers as well as audiences and industry people. So we wanted to try and preserve that as much as possible. So going into this year, we're really excited, mainly one, that our festival is still happening. And even though there was a short period of doubt when Zola and I had the conversation, we should be ready to refund people's submission money. People pay to submit their films, and priorities are certainly being reshuffled in the creative community as people try and survive and keep eating and pay rent. But through early communications with filmmakers and retrospective event that we had a little over a month ago, it became clear that no, they need this more than ever. The filmmakers need for their voices to be out there, and they're hoping and praying that platforms like ours are still surviving through this period. So that was really reaffirming that, yeah, we've still got the people on board, and they still believe in this. So we need to work our hardest to deliver. We're excited in a lot of ways because being online takes away some barriers. We're really happy to be able to offer the festival free of charge, quote unquote, really encouraging people to donate to support what we're doing and what other artists in Seattle are trying to keep doing. And that also removes the barrier of people. In the past, we've had to be really selective. We can't, of course, invite all of our directors to be a part of the festival and join us in Seattle. So for the first time, we'll have, an average of 6 or 7 directors per screening block joining us to connect with the audience, talk about their work, talk about their experience as Black creatives right now in the craziness that we've got going on. And that is really one of the key things that we love about our festival and the feedback we've gotten from directors and community members, that ability to have face-to-face contact. So it'll be digital face-to-face this year, but the opening of having all those directors in the room to be able to respond to questions about their work and what's going on with them is just, it's magical, and it's really at the heart of our festival. So little bit, we're curious to see how it'll work, the ability for those directors to exchange phone numbers after and to continue to support each other. We'll have to see how that turns out, because again, another joy for all of us at our festival is, everyone's presented their films, and then everybody gets off the stage and they start pulling their phones out, and they're like, your cinematography was amazing, can I connect with your camera person, or your script was amazing, or I want to run something past you. And that magic and that work that happens in the networking, we're envisioning that that'll be a little bit of a challenge this year, which is frustrating in some respects, but we're hoping that having a panel discussion at the beginning of every screening block will give each director a little bit of exposure to who else is featured in the festival, so they can carry the baton from there. So it's definitely experimental this year. There's a lot of a lot of things that we're excited about, and a lot of things that we're just putting it out there with a lot of support from the Couchathon team, and just our core team has been super strong and just pivoting and believing in that it's going to happen and it's going to be fine. So we'll see, but we're really excited about what we've lined up, and that we've been able to maintain the support of filmmakers and make it happen.
I definitely do appreciate that. I know this year's been really hard, especially when it comes to collaborations and everything, or face-to-face meetings, especially when it comes to the film community, because that was one of the major communities that got shut down due to the pandemic. I've been lucky to meet other people. A friend of mine has started a Facebook group that is literally only for people of color in the Seattle film or even the Washington community. It's called Seattle Filmmakers of the African Diaspora, and it is a massive group. I mean, I didn't even know myself, being here, that there were so many people of color in the Seattle area. It just, it's just, one of those things that you're so used to, you know, representing something like as an entity, if you're on a film set, or, if you're a character in a production, or, if you're on the crew. And so I know that I've had this discussion multiple times with many different people about bringing more diversity and representation to the Seattle film community. So I'm so glad that, I've had the chance to talk to all of you. And I definitely want to make sure that I keep in touch with all of you, because there's so many great projects on the horizon. And I feel like as a community, it is so important to represent, to support each other. And, I can't wait to view all of the different movies that you all will be showing this weekend. So I know that we have a couple of trailers, full-length trailers that I love to be able to present. Our first one that we're going to be showing is called $16,000. And all of these trailers are a representation of different spots in the in different categories, a part of the film festival this weekend. So I will let our voice of God present the first trailer.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I'll hop in really quick if I can.
After 400 years,
Oh.
Oh, it's all good. Thank you, Voice of God. I wanted to, and thank you very much, Abby, for teeing it up. I wanted to take the opportunity to kind of tee up each trailer. As you pointed out, we've brought a selection of 5 trailers. There's essentially 5 screening events throughout this weekend. So the first trailer that you're going to see is from our Friday night Black Brilliance screening block. We generally kick the festival off with a selection of the short films from the official selection, basically, that blew us away. Really, really strong works and really diverse works. So, Rhett, your film, Abby, is in there.
I'm so excited. You don't understand how excited I am about this. I've been trying to tell the director and the writer to submit it, for the longest time, because it's such a powerful piece. Especially when I found out. I mean, we'll talk about it afterwards, but yeah, there's so much.
But it really is one of those exemplary films in that block that speaks to the Black experience in a number of ways, really profoundly. In addition, it's a local work. That's another thing that we're really excited about. Our opening night Black and Brilliant showcase is a lot of local films. We've got 4 or 6 local filmmakers in there telling really diverse stories and stuff that really touch you. The trailer that I pulled out is one of the comedies. It's pretty hilarious. So Todd, take it away.
After 400 years, African Americans will finally have reparations for slavery.
Yeah. Where's yours?
So our ancestors got ripped from Africa. They built this country, and then they got whipped and shit for like hundreds of years.
Yeah, and then they canceled UPN.
This money is hope. This is diapers. This is formula. This is title passwords for us, man.
How many of us have had to suffer weird white nonsense in our communities?
Thank you for coming in. Sock it to me.
I believe that it is time that we sell white people our nonsense.
That line at the end.
That's hilarious.
So bad. She put words on it. I haven't quite managed to put words on it, and that one hit home.
It's definitely hard to put words on that one, but it's been something that I've been so interested in seeing someone do a take on it so bad. Like, what happens, if that was something that actually happened, especially now. we need that a little bit now, but can you talk a little bit about that trailer, and then let's go into the next one?
Perfect. Well, I think I pretty much wrapped it up. I'd say the last thing to look out for on opening night is there are not just regular narrative films. We've got a really great experimental film from a local filmmaker as well. And there are some, or at least one film that talks about there's essentially a young Black boy who has been raised in a Chinese family. So a lot of different takes on the Black experience in that film block. On Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, we have a film block that's talking a lot about coming of age and the passing of traditions across generations. A lot of films about youth and young Black men in particular. And on that youth theme, we're also super excited that for the 3rd year in a row, Jazmyn, back me up, we have been working with SIF for a special series of Crash youth filmmaking workshops. And essentially over a series of weekends, we bring youth between 9 and 12 years old into the Langston facility in the Central District, and they get a crash course in how to make a film. And every year, or since we've been doing this with SIF, we curate a little selection of those films. And this year they worked on since last fall, they've been working on documentary films. And one thing that's really excellent about this series, where there are 5 films that we selected from all of the films made by these youth, and they uncover and discover the Central District. So there's a short piece in there about the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute and its history. And there is another video about one of the staff members of the facility. They go into NAM, the Northwest African American Museum, and again, uncover a few different personalities from the Central District. And so it's a great bite-sized and very fresh perspective on what's going on in the Central District. So let's go ahead, voice of God, roll it out.
wanted to know so much more. It's like, that's just not enough. I want to know why he's running, who, you know, like, it just, yeah. And so I'm really excited to see some of these like full length this weekend. But that trailer was just, it was really compelling. And you're absolutely right. You know, getting a chance to be a mentor at the SIF crash course and being able to like bounce ideas off of these immensely creative minds. It's something beautiful to behold, and I definitely want to, you know, be able to continue that, because I never got the opportunity, you know, when I was 9, 10, 11, 12, and I've been interested in doing films for forever. But you know, having Nigerian parents, it's really hard to get into anything else that's not engineering, law, or medicine. So, you know, having programs that are out there that help cultivate young minds, I think it's amazing what you all are doing. Seriously.
Can I just speak to that really quick too? Because it really has just been one of our greatest programs where we're able to engage young people. And we get, you know, a different group of young people every time we do these workshops. Some of them are weekend workshops where they do 8 hours a day and they create their short film in a day. And then some of them are week-long camps, like during the holiday breaks and whatnot. But, you know, I'm blown away every single time we get these young people in our space. The topics that they choose to explore, and just watching how their brains are working as they're really discussing what they want to cover, what they want their movies to ultimately, you know, talk about, is just amazing. And, you know, to hear a 10-year-old talk about gentrification, it just blew my mind this last series, because, you know, in their short 10 years, they really haven't witnessed it to the magnitude that we have, for those of us that are especially natives in this city. And so, you know, just the things that they're learning and they're exploring, and the stories that they're choosing to tell at such a young age is really incredible. So I'm just so happy that, you know, number one, we have the opportunity to work with the youth in our community and explore their brilliance and creativity in that way. And then two, that we're able to showcase their work on our platform, on our film festival platform. I think really inspires them to keep going. They've come to the screenings when we've done it in person. They've gotten an opportunity to talk and be a part of panels. So we're really like, you know, helping them expand, you know, their understanding of what it means to be a filmmaker, and how much, you know, how much further they could go with that. And so it's just a beautiful thing. I just wanted to say that. I love kids.
Can I just also say that I'm absolutely in awe of all of you. I never knew that, you know, these kids had the opportunity to submit their films, you know, into film festivals. And I don't really know that there are a lot of parents that know that these programs are available. You know, if you have kids that, you know, want to create stories, these kids have nothing on a 48-hour film festival. Like I mean, well, these kids are just beyond 48 hours. I've never been so exhausted before in my entire life trying to make a film in 8 hours. Never. And you don't even really have 8 hours. You have maybe 5, because you have to dedicate at least a couple of those hours to editing, you know, which is another thing that can take forever. And then making sure everything is ready and presentable to send off to the big bad who presents all of them and puts them together. And it's phenomenal. Like I can't, it literally blows my mind, because I'm learning, you know, while I'm with these kids, and they're just amazing. And then to have the ability to, you know, take that to the next level, to the next step, you know, with having them submit and learn how to submit to film festivals.
Well, I'll say, so our mentors are amazing as well. They really coach them along the way. So we have some really great mentors from the community. We hope to bring you on for the next round as well.
I would love it.
They groom them. In this instance, they don't submit because it's an internal program. We really take a look at everything and then make selections for every year what we're going to present in the film festival. But there is an aspect of the film festival where we highlight youth filmmakers. And so youth filmmakers do have an opportunity, young filmmakers do have an opportunity to submit to the Seattle Black Film Festival. So there is that opportunity if there are young people that aren't necessarily engaged in our youth filmmaking program, but they are making films, they can submit. And we did receive quite a few submissions from young filmmakers this time around, like we do every year. So there is that opportunity as well. But we're happy that we have this particular program that we are doing in partnership with SIF that we really get to insert intentionally into our film festival every year.
And I'd say to kind of piggyback off something you were saying, Abby, one of the reasons we find this program is so important that it's not necessarily just for kids who want to tell stories. I personally, as a filmmaker, I believe everyone has that in them. And the reason why part of the reason why Black stories are so marginalized is the story of access. And not everybody, when I was a kid, we didn't have video cameras hanging around the house so we could experiment with and get our legs early on, where as people who had other situations were exposed differently and had a different level of access. So that reflects the industry as it is today. So programs like ours is, maybe if you don't have access or it's just not something that's on your landscape because you don't have a parent who's an executive producer of something, or, a cousin who's a director or an actor, that this is still more than a possibility for us, that this can be your future. So get started and dive in, and here's some tools, and start building your story making career, your storytelling career.
Absolutely. So let's get into the next film festival, Mino Film Trailer, or the next trailer.
So our next screening block that we're going to take a quick dive into is on Saturday afternoon, this Saturday the 11th at 7 p.m. or Saturday evening, I should say. And this is more of a screening block that circles around identity, questions of identity, and that can be someone transitioning to motherhood, someone there are films where people are questioning their sexual identity or their social identity, their role in a family as a family member dies and certain things get passed on to them. So a lot of kind of internal questions of what your role is for yourself in your family unit, in your community. So a lot of really deep and beautiful stories going on here. So this is one film that I'm particularly attached to that has a vision of what the future might look like.
She's having a vision. Breathe through it and tell me what's coming to you. Get rid of the thoughts about me. I miss their presence.
You will be banished, Osa. You have a daughter of childbearing age. Have her carry the bloodline instead of in the womb of your lover.
So Hoppin, we missed a little bit of the beginning, but essentially the story there is it's a picture of a future society where men have been banned and essentially no longer exist. And I'll leave it there. But I love the imagery. I love the costumes and the camera work in that film, which is another thing I'll point out just across the films. It's wonderful to see not just incredible stories, but incredible craftsmanship. Putting Black stories on the screen. So camera work, music, editing. That's another reason why I love kind of the little creative bubble that is our festival. I'll go ahead and move us on to Sunday. Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, we've centered most of our documentary films. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, but it's mostly documentaries. And this is also where we have our strongest international representation, with a film from South Africa. A Brazilian director living in Paris has brought us a documentary film, as well as a film from Nigeria of a filmmaker who's currently living in New York. So a lot of kind of origin story work here from a documentary and a narrative perspective. And the film that we're going to show a trailer for is called Sankofa, which goes a step further from crossing the line between documentary and narrative. There's also a spoken word element in this film, which is really, really gorgeous. So bring it on.
And real quick here, I do have a question from chat about Saturday. People want to know more information about how they can register for the workshops on both Saturday and Sunday.
Thanks. I'll address that. So the workshops are going to be presented on Facebook Live on our Langston Facebook page. And so if you go to Facebook, we are at Langston Seattle. Look for that there, and the events are up. You can find those events, the workshops by name. So the master class, and then the workshop that Zola is leading as well on Sunday. They're going to stream at 2:00 on our Facebook page. So you can find it there. And then the information should also be on our website, langstonseattle.org.
Okay, and here's the trailer.
Thanks, Todd.
I'm lost. Searching high and low for a history far behind and buried deep. Family I'll never know in eternal sleep. A slave master's name, mine to keep. And I'm lost. I'm told to go back to go forward, but I can't go back. Family tree chopped down and it won't grow back. And I'm lost.
When I was growing up, I was taught in American history books that Africa had no history, and neither did I. That I was a savage, about whom the less said the better, who had been saved by Europe and brought to America. And of course, I believed it. I didn't have much choice. Those are the only books there were.
Oh, so powerful. Absolutely beautiful.
That one does drive a lot home. It's a gorgeous film. All the films are gorgeous. Come to the whole festival.
Yes,
So I'll wrap
yes.
this up. I'll kick off our last screening block, which will be Sunday evening. It's our closer at 7 p.m. And we are so grateful to be joined by the director, Veronica McKenzie, who is actually based in London. So she'll be waking up at some terrible hour that I believe is 3 in the morning to join us.
It's an 8-hour time difference.
Yeah. So she'll be joining us to present her film, which is a really powerful woman-centered film around a young woman who loses her twin brother, and how her mother and other close family members kind of lead her through the 9 nights, which is a common Caribbean grieving process or grieving tradition. And it's basically, the film goes through this young woman's transition to accepting the passing of her brother, but also it brings up some other family things going on between her mother and her aunt. And it's really just a gorgeous reckoning of really strong female characters on a really strong cultural backdrop. Again, with excellent cinematography and just really a beautiful narrative.
And I think the mother is, or at least I believe that this is the mother, Lenore Haynes, is Jo Martin, who is my most favorite actress right now. She is one of the new reoccurring doctors on Doctor Who. Doctor Who has finally changed their persona of what
hiring Black people,
Time Lord is supposed to look like, and I think she was an absolute fan favorite. So, getting a chance to see her in this trailer, I was just like, I know that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's present the trailer.
Ames wins forever. My sis, going for gold? Of course I'll be there.
The first 3 nights are pure confusion.
Mommy, where's Mikey?
It was an accident.
There's shock understandable. Person finds himself dead. And those left behind don't want to accept he's gone.
If Mikey were dead, I would know. Remember that time when he hurt his leg and I had the same pain in mine? Yeah. Mikey! Oh!
Will the Lord place your life back and holds you to account?
You drove Dad away. You cut him off from his kids. You fucking left him, Laura. That is not my fault.
He'd want you to have this. Transference. Night 6, the departed starts their journey to the afterlife. Both sides have to give up. There's no going back.
How much do you want to be with him? I'll give anything. Jump. Sometimes seeing is believing.
Great. I think we had a few little technical challenges in there, but definitely got the essence of it. Just a really incredible imagery and really strong performances. So thanks, Abby, for filling us in on that reference. I didn't watch Doctor Who.
Yeah. She actually, I mean, just even watching her in this role, it was literally giving me absolute shivers. And I think I remember Tania Miller also, who was in an episode of Doctor Who. But it's just nice to be able to see these actors doing something else compared to the tiny clips of stuff that they're access to when it comes to Hollywood produced type film or TV. So I want to, we're kind of getting towards the end here. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I would love to see if there's any questions from the audience that you have for the organizers. Any questions? Okay, well, I guess it doesn't look like we have any questions. I'm just, oh, well, thank you, Karen. She said that 9 nights looks good. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see all of the films that are presented, during this weekend. And I really can't wait to see Wretch again. And, I'm so excited once again to have you all here with us today talking to us, and would love to have you back. But I mean, this has been such an amazing experience, and I'm just so glad that I got the opportunity to talk to all of you and put faces and voices, to emails. It's always so hard because we're always so busy, when it comes to filmmaking in general, and when it comes to production in general and events. And I know that the Langston puts on so many different things, so I can't wait to see what happens in the future. Super excited to see The Craft, because I think I'm not going to date myself, so we'll just get rid of that part, but we'll edit that in post. But I mean, I just remember all the controversy happening with her, especially when it comes to going to conventions, because I think that's how I know some of the other members at the Langston is meeting them through public events where people of color as nerds can gather together and go crazy when it comes to their fandom. And for the longest time, for some reason, she wasn't included. Ruth wasn't included in conventions just because of the color of her skin. So
Yeah. I'll add one last thought. Another special thing about Seattle Black Film Festival is that we don't position ourselves as a market festival. And I look at our festival weekend as a really prime opportunity to immerse yourself in Black stories without a lot of the push and pull that happens. Finally, our stories are, there are series on Netflix, there are series out there, there are films out there, but I'm so aware of the push and pull of the powers that be that affect our works as they make their way up the chain to greater notoriety and greater visibility. And I look to our festival as it's not a market festival. We're not opening up a platform for people to bring their narratives to get sold. And I think that there is a certain just honesty and face value of those works that have been made from people, from individuals to an audience and to our people and the rest of the world, and not necessarily so that it makes the cut in the writer's room or so that it makes the cut to get on the channel. So that is a really unique space where you have, unbridled voices and unadapted voices that have a lot of really important and beautiful things to say. So this is a really unique opportunity just to immerse yourself in that and to bask in the glory of our stories.
So I did get a couple of questions, two from Karen. She said that she wasn't able to find where to register on the schedule link, but also, she wanted to know about how filmmaker talkbacks would work. I think that was discussed a little bit in the beginning of our episode, Karen. So if you want to go back to relook at that, I know that that was talked about. One more question from Denise Gibbs, who is a local casting director here in the Seattle area. She asks your advice for encouraging youth to tell their stories. And I'll leave that up to you, ladies.
I'll address those two really quick. So there is no registration. So you're right. We did mention that earlier. It's free of charge. So there is no registration. You'll see on our website, there are areas where it says click to join, because these videos are not on demand. Just like Andrea mentioned, during the screening blocks, that's when you're going to need to go to the site, click to join, and then it'll lead you to where Couchathon is hosting each screening. And the conversations, the panels, the conversations with the filmmakers and whatnot are happening right before the films are actually being screened. So at the time of the screening block, you'll see 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock are the screening blocks for both Saturday and Sunday, and then 6 o'clock for tomorrow. You'll want to make sure that you click to join at that time, and then it'll be live. You'll see the panel discussions, and then it'll go straight into the films. And so again, there's no registration, there's no price to pay. You're welcome to donate to Langston. There's information on how to donate on our website. But again, it's a really easy process. There's nothing you have to do but take your mouse and click. And then just really quickly to Denise's question, as far as my experience with what we're doing with the young people with the crash camps, I think it's really important to provide a space and all the resources that they need in order for them to tell their stories the way they want to, not forcing anything upon them and not creating any barriers that will prevent them from being able to explore and tell their stories the way they want to. So we really create a supportive environment of staff and mentors that help them along the way in doing that, and then a space that they can completely take over and explore so that they can film in the way that they want to. And so, when we did one teen camp, and we received a lot of hesitance from one young lady who was just like, I don't want to be here, whatever. And so we just gave her the space to go through that. You know, she wanted to isolate for herself and, you know, be that defiant, you know, 14-year-old or whatever. And we allowed her to do that. But then when she saw that the other young people were able to do so many things, they didn't have to be in front of the camera, they could be behind the camera, they could write, they could edit, they could do so many things. Then she began to become engaged because she found out that there were things that she could do that she was actually interested in. So it's really about creating a space for young people to really just have the freedom to figure it out and explore it the way that they want to. And because of that, we've gotten some really powerful stories from these young people.
I would add to that quickly, Jazmyn, that we're in a really unique time in terms of technology, that every kid, most kids or many kids right now have access to a cell phone. And that's all you need to not get hung up on, I don't have an editing software, I don't have a DSLR camera. Filmmaking is about storytelling. So even if you don't have a phone, write that story down and share it with people and hone that skill, because that's what's going to help you develop. Tell your story in whatever format you can. Tell your story, and then if you get the opportunity to get your hand on tools later, then adapt to that tool if that's where you want to go. But just tell your story. If you're drawing pictures, writing stories, whatever, just start telling your story and help yourself develop that.
Yeah, and another thing with that too, with the kids, I know that when I've been doing the mentorship program at the SIF, you know, I've always given them the opportunity to pick which role they wanted to do. You know, if they wanted to act, if they wanted to be camera, we couldn't really do writers because everything was pretty much improv. But, you know, people had the choice, the kids had the choice to pick what they wanted to do. So it's literally about giving them that creative, you know, that creative ability to be able to pick what they want. Most kids don't like being in front of a camera. I have a 19-year-old and he hates being in front of the camera. So I've learned the hard way not to make him anymore. But I just want to thank you all again. Zola, I didn't know if you had any last thoughts, but
it was much the same. Please, and if you know young people, children who are interested in filmmaking, by all means, please encourage them to come to the Crash screening block, and then afterwards talk about it with them. Talk about what they want to do. How do we use the tools at hand, as Andrea was saying, to create something?
And also for, you know, parents out there with kids, for the film festival this weekend, give them the option of watching with you. And then, you know, I know a lot of you guys have teaching moments too, where you have the directors talking on aspects of their films. So that's a good time for them to ask questions if they have questions, if they are interested in, you know, being a filmmaker, being a writer, any kind of storyteller. They have the absolute option right there to talk to, you know, people who've been doing this for years, or, you know, even for months. Just, you know, it's about giving them the opportunity. So I definitely thank all of you again, Jazmyn, Zola, and Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I can't say how much that I appreciate and I'm in awe of all of you, powerful people. So I'm gonna say goodbye to our audience. Thank you all for joining us today for this episode of Filling the Void, and we'll see you again next week. And don't forget to click, like, and share.
Thank you, Evie.